Okay guys, it's Kevin here. So just have 3ds Max opened, and I'm just going to go through this video, which is basically explaining how we would do a repeatable process for making objects inside 3ds Max that can be brought into Unity and then used for our game. So I'm just going to start off here with a quick overview of 3ds Max as to how I have it set up for creating models, so it actually fits in with what we've discussed as a group. So in the video in total, we're going to be talking about how I would set up the scene to make models, so as far as reference pictures and how I'd work off them. I'll go through some of the features of 3ds Max, which a lot of them you'll be aware of, but it's good practice just to go over them in the video, just in case there's anything you're stuck with. We'll go through some technical stuff with it, such as how I would rotate and set pivot points so they actually work well with Unity, and then how to do things like once you resize an object so it's not out of scale, you would do things like resetting X forms before you export them, and then all other stuff like making ambient occlusion maps, normal maps, and how you would unwrap them and texture them using Photoshop and other stuff like that. Yeah, and then I'm going to bring it into Unity and we'll set it up with everything it needs inside Unity to act properly for whatever model it is, and then we'll just save it out as a prefab and be able to export it so it's just importable into the game, and you can just drag and drop it in from a prefab setting. So first thing we're going to do inside 3ds Max here is have a look at the unit setup. We've agreed as a group that the units for making all the models inside the game will be based on meters. So if you don't have that set up in your 3ds Max, how you do that is you would go up here to customize, and in customize you can go to unit setup. Under unit setup you'll see that it's set to meters. If it's set to anything else, just set it to meters, and from the drop down, and then just press OK. So that's that set up. Now my 3ds Max might look a little bit different than yours. Just a few things I've done just for myself, just like I've changed some colors and changed the layout of some stuff just so it works better for me, that's all. So don't worry if it doesn't look the same. There's not a whole lot different to it. So if we're setting up the scene, then one of the first things we want to do is set up some planes in the scene for the reference images that we're going to be working off. Now the reference images that I have all come from this image, which is another 3D model of a kind of concert chair that we're going to be doing for this scene. So in one of the timelines there's a piano which gets played, and during that time at the house there would have been a lot of people as an audience that would listen to the piano being played. So we're going to have duplicates of this concert chair in that hall, so people can sit and listen, that sort of thing. But this is the concert chair that I'm after choosing that we can actually model. So it's hard to get a straight on shot of a lot of chairs and side on view of a lot of chairs. Perspective kind of warps it and that sort of stuff, so a lot of the time another reference images like drawings or 3D models, it helps a lot to have those, because people know that having those references from those angles is the best way to have it. So what I've done is I've taken these top two on the top right here, and I've split them in Photoshop to have two individual photos. So they're here in my references images. So these are the ones I'm going to apply to the planes. Okay, so to set up the planes for the reference images, what we're going to do is select plane here, which is under your standard primitives. We're going to drag it out in the front view, because that's mainly obviously the perspective which the front of the front image from the references image is going to be set up. So that's there anyway. And we're just going to press M to bring up your material editor, or you can press this button over here in the top right. So once you've done that, you have to drag on a material ball onto the object, which will change it over, and that allows us to change whatever's in this material will come up here. So we're going to press this box beside the diffuse menu or bar. So we're going to select the bitmap, which is from the list of all the maps you can actually apply to the material. And from here we're going to select the reference image, which is chair 1 on my computer. So to get this to show up on the object, you just press this button here, which is show shaded material on viewport, and that comes up right about here. So we can X out of that now. Sorry. And I'm just going to maximize this perspective viewport, because the rest of these now I'm pretty much not going to use for the project, so unless they're really needed. So we'll just maximize using the bottom right button down here. And then there's a couple of other things. If you press G, you can get rid of the grid, which is nice. And if you press J, if you have these brackets on your actual model and you want to get rid of them, you can just press J and then they'll go away. So what we have set up here is the first plane, and we're going to make the second plane now so we can actually put on the side view of the chair. W will give you this move gizmo, which is here either, and then you have rotate and you have scale. So E and R on your keypad will toggle between them. And what we want to do is go to E to rotate the actual plane. So if we hold shift and rotate, it's going to duplicate it. So what I've done is I have rotate in increments of 5 degrees, which how I have that turned on is this button here, which is angle snap. So you can either click that or you can press A on your keypad, will turn that on and off as well. So if I hold shift and rotate on this axis, it's going to rotate it out, and if I rotate it by 90 degrees, I know it's obviously a right angle then, and it's going to be straight on the other axis. So I'm just going to copy it, and I'm going to move it now by pressing W and then moving that on the arrows. So I'll just line it up roughly around there. So we're going to apply the other image to this. So if I press M again, or again the material ball, it's going to be this one beside it. I'll drag onto this, and then I will select bitmap and a different bitmap, which is going to be chair 2. Sorry, undo that. I should have selected this ball. I actually had this one selected, so I'm going to press the box down here beside the fuse, go to bitmap and put on chair 2 onto this one. So I'll drag this onto this one, press this button, which is show shaded material in viewport, and I'll drag this one onto this one, and again show shaded material in viewport. So the two of them are up there now. So I'm going to X out of this, and the next thing we need to do is find the actual measurements for both of these planes, so prospectively they are in the correct proportions. So they don't look too far off, but I'm just going to check them against the actual correct measurements for the original photos. So how we do that is we pretty much just go down here to your original images, and you right click on the image, bring up the properties and go to the details tab, and that will bring up the dimensions down here, which is 526 by 863. That's for the first image. So if we go back into 3ds Max here and select the first image, if we go onto the modifier tab, we can see the length and the width here under the parameters for the plane. So we have to match these up. So 863 is going to be huge inside this 3D world, because we're obviously working off meters, and that would be a lot of meters compared to your character. So we know the actual one is going to be a lot smaller. So one of the easiest way to keep it in perspective for me is just to put a point in before that, so I know it's going to be 0.863 or 0.863 for the length, which makes it a lot smaller, and then obviously the width is going to be 0.526, which is what we had down. So that is the correct perspective and proportion for, the correct proportion for the reference image. And I know that's going to be not too far away from the size of the actual model. Obviously it'll have to be scaled up, but we'll know that when we're doing it at the end. So if we select the other reference image, then we're going to go through the same process. And to do this, again, right click on the correct image, go to properties, go to details. There's your measurements, 532 by 863, so pretty similar but not the same. So we're going to do again 0.863, and the width was 0.526, 532. So there's the two of them aligned, the right proportions, so that's grand. So I'm just going to align these roughly where they should be. So I know that the back of the chair is going to be pretty much in line with that other reference image. And that way, if I press F on the keyboard or I press front up here, it's going to show me the front view. And that's the chair I'm going to be working off. And if I press L or go to the left viewport here, it's going to show me the side-on view of the chair. So at this point I can kind of start modeling. So I'd start in the front viewport and start blocking out the chair itself. I'd work on the back first and then work on the legs more than likely, and then from the side view I'll be working on the seat and duplicating the legs around so they actually work well, and then obviously the arm. So all in all, that's what I'm going to do next. And the last thing I want to say on this initial setup is you might see that my modifier tab has these extra buttons here. These are just buttons I use a lot, and they're actually all in the modifier list. It just means that because I use them a lot, I can just access them a lot quicker. So if I'm going to do turbo smooth or whatever it is, then it's already there for me. If you wanted to set up something like that, all you have to do is select this button here, which is configure modifier sets, and then you have to go to configure modifier sets again, and then here's your button. So you can set however many you want, so 12 or whatever it is, and then you just go through the list of modifiers and drag on. Say if you want to add a cloth, you drag it onto there, and surface to there, and skin morph up over here, and hair and fur or whatever to here, and then you just press OK or save and then OK. I'm just going to press cancel because obviously I don't want to alter mine, but that's the only real difference there. So I'm going to just stop the recording here and I'll get back to it when I go through the next step.